What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 32 of Unfiltered. I'm your host, ChanManV, and got a packed day, just like every day, guys. We got two events that happened this weekend, ASUS ROG NorthCon and Shoutcraft America Winter. We'll be going over that, some of the results, and... Oh, shoot, my mic's low. Oh, great. Hold on.
God damn it.
What the fuck? Hold on, before I continue, I gotta make sure I get this. Man, it keeps changing on me. What the fuck?
Oh.
Whoops.
Oh, that's really loud now.
Come on, Chan, man. Get your shit together.
Dude, it keeps changing on me. Let me turn it down.
Hashtag low production value.
Oh, does anyone else an ASL sound guy?
Yeah, I work with ASUS sound guy still, so.
Nice. Chris, you're like a cunt whisper of volume.
I can't hear him at all.
Oh, hey, what's up? Welcome back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody hear me now? Oh my
Yep.
god. I think Skype keeps changing my mic level. Okay. Alright, everything good? Viewers can hear me? You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, man.
Oh my god, that was weird. Okay. Alright, anyways, continuing on. We've got the two events we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking a little bit about Clauf and ESGN. We got Frodan here to give us the lowdown on that. And then we'll talk about Riot's decision to not allow streamers to stream any other games and then, reverse that decision. So we'll talk through that a little bit. And then we have a couple others that, if we have time, we'll talk about it. Things involving Bitcoins and show matches with Scarlet, and maybe even some talk about YouTube's new copyright approval policy. Steven, I'm kind of interested to see if you have any thoughts on that. And then,
Wait,
of course,
there's no copyright approval policy?
you know that, right?
The fuck? This wasn't on the show notes?
I just added it to miscellaneous. Well,
Oh my god. Wait, say it one more time. Who's new copyright approval thing?
You don't know about this? Oh my god, it's coming
Wait,
up.
who?
What do you mean who? YouTube.
YouTube. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Alright,
yeah.
yeah, I heard about that.
Okay, I was gonna say that.
Okay.
So we have time, we'll talk a little bit about that. But otherwise, we'll do some Q&A. As always, guys, post your questions in the Reddit thread. Reddit thread is right here, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. But want to welcome our, just everybody on the show. Mr. Destiny here, each and every week, my co-host. What's up, Steven?
What's up, buddy?
And we got two guests, two first-timers on any of my shows. First off, we got NoNY. I keep calling you NoNY, guys. It's NoNY. What's up, Tyler?
You can do it either way. I don't care.
Wait, is it really
Thanks for
NoNY?
Yeah.
Okay.
The second
I don't
O is
care if you
hidden
say
and
NoNY.
so.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say NoNY except for Tyler. Everybody mispronounces it. It's crazy. And then our other guest today is Frodan, who's going to give us the lowdown on, I guess, what he's working on, the company he's working at now.
I'm an open book. I'm ready.
Yeah. So, I don't know why it took so long to get you guys on the show, but I'm really happy to finally have you on. And Tyler, we've had so many, NoNY, we've had so many Zerg tiers on this show. I felt like we had to get some Protoss. We got to get a Protoss on here to kind of balance things.
Yeah, sure. Except Protoss is winning now, so I'm not here to cry.
That's true. Actually, this weekend Huck won. Huck won one of the events. That's true. All right, let's kick things off. Let's just get started with ASUS ROG NorthCon. It was a pretty cool event. I think a lot of big names were out there at the event, and the finals were pretty cool, having Scarlet against Jaedong, with either of them really being a headline if they won. So it was a really good situation for the tournament. And then Jaedong winning, obviously being his first big StarCraft 2 event winning. I think that was a pretty big step for him. And maybe, just the beginning of things, just a lot more victories, a lot more titles maybe for him. What did you guys think of the tournament overall? Tyler, what did you think?
You said it was a big tournament. Would you call it a premier tournament?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would call it a premier tournament or not.
All right, I wouldn't... Okay,
Would you
all
call
right.
it a premier tournament?
Well, Well, okay, it's not a premier tournament, but it's not a
Okay.
tiny tournament either. I mean, they were
Well,
good
what about
players.
like Landhammer? Would you consider that a premier
Oh,
tournament?
come
or-
on. It's much bigger than Landhammer. I mean, the players they had there were you know, what innovation was there.
Or maybe what you're
And-
saying is it depends on who you ask.
Okay. I don't know. Frodan, premier tournament or not?
It's at least well, it's what I love about it actually. The entire thing is that for about a year and a half to 2 years, every single caster would call the biggest events major tournaments. Like, oh, this guy would win. Like
Yeah.
Nestea won 3 major tournaments, but then all of a sudden, Team Liquid decided to pull a fast one on us and say there's premier, major, and then minor tournaments. So I'm confused, man. Like I don't even know what quantifies as a premier tournament or a major tournament. What's the difference? Is it just prize pool?
Well, I mean, whatever it is, it's a big win for him. You know, I mean, he hasn't had any kind of title.
We're making fun of the hug tweets. You realize that, right?
yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah.
I'm just actually confused because I don't myself know what constitutes as a premier tournament.
Knowing those Liquipedia guys, they probably do have like an actual definition, but I don't know what it is. Maybe they don't though, because it's got to be a combination of things with like prize pool, how you qualify. Like I'm not sure that like an invite only can be a premier tournament,
Yeah.
And,
Okay, that's fair.
and the level of competition obviously. But yeah, I don't know what the definition is, but I think I see it. I'm looking at it now. Liquipedia lists it as a premier event.
Okay, let's see.
So there it is.
It lists. Oh, okay. Yeah, it does. It is listed as a premiere.
All right, NorthCon premier event.
So it must be premiere.
Case closed.
Exactly. I mean, there are enough good players in it that I mean, it was still a good win for Jaedong, and you know, seeing Scarlet versus Jaedong too at the end. I mean, Scarlet 3-0ing Life I thought was pretty awesome. I mean, that was very, very unexpected. It's cool to beat Life, but beat Life 3-0. That's pretty sweet. Steven, what'd you think of her ZVZ?
Pretty good. I mean, it was strange. I don't know. ZVZ is like a really big clusterfuck. Like she beat Life 3-0, but then in her games versus Jaedong, she was making like a few mistakes. I don't know. ZVZ is like really weird because it's like if you make one mistake at any point in any ZVZ, like the whole game just kind of landslides from there. And if you're not like used to playing a lot of ZVZs, it's hard to see that sometimes. Like there are a lot of ZVZ games that they played that were kind of decided like really early on because of like losing one Overlord or one good Baneling hit or whatnot. But then the game kind of snowballs from there, you know.
I mean, that
I'm
pretty much
talking about
sums
her
up
playing
ZVZ. I mean,
Jaedong. Yeah. But it just seems strange that she was having a bit of trouble versus Jaedong when like Life is like renowned for like his lane control and whatnot, you know?
Frodan, what did you think? Did you catch the finals?
The finals of like Scarlet versus Jaedong.
Yeah.
I didn't get to because it was a little bit busy of a weekend for me, but I did manage to catch some of the VODs as well, and I really like. I mean, Jaedong's ZVZ has always been really good, but what surprised me is like how good Scarlet's ZVZ is. Because every time I talked to her at like WCS America, she always told me that ZVZ was always like literally just a coin flip for her. She just doesn't really. Well, she would try to pick builds randomly. She doesn't really know strategy too much or mind games, so she would just kind of do whatever she felt. And so I was really pleasantly surprised to see her beat Life 3-0. But Life has always had a ZVZ weakness as well, so it's not that terribly surprising at the same time.
Tyler, any thoughts?
This is the one tournament I pretty much didn't watch at all. I could have watched Scarlet Jaedong and I was like, it's ZVZ. And I skipped it. Not that I don't like
No
ZVZ,
Protoss
but
bias.
my priority level at that time was if it's not Protoss, I'm not interested.
Damn.
Gotcha. Jaedong Innovation was pretty good too.
Gotcha.
If you guys...
As soon as Elfie lost, Tyler lost it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, seriously. But overall, I think it was a pretty cool tournament, and you know, it was good again seeing Scarlet make it to a finals, have a big win, and then also obviously Jaedong. A lot of people love Jaedong, so seeing him win an event, whether it's a major or you know major event or premier event or not, I think is probably a stepping stone for him. You know, you guys know, especially Tyler, I'm sure you know that once you start winning a little bit, you just start having this confidence that you can take into the next event.
Yeah, I think that it was pretty much perfect timing for Jaedong to at least like end the year on a high note, because now I think, as far as I know, he's going to have a relatively light schedule until things really start to pick up next year. So he can go into his brief off season, if you want to call it that, with some confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to really feel good for Jaedong too, just because EG just announced that they re-signed him as well, so he can kind of prove his value in that regard. And don't forget that players like Tasia and Polt, once upon a time, would be winning these smaller premier tournaments. I guess they wouldn't be winning GSLs. Well, Polt won GSL, but Tasia built his confidence and everything, winning these things like Assembly, like the smaller DreamHacks, and then eventually stacked it up. For a while, he was winning only $10,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Only 10,000.
Well, yeah, quotation marks.
All right, well, let's move on to the next event, which was Shoutcraft America Winter. And I wasn't really following it super closely the day, I guess, of the cutoff for the ladder, because I was doing Wednesday Night Sprites, and Unfiltered was the day before too. So were you guys, Tyler, were you trying to get into that? I know, Steven, you were trying to, that GM quest was fucking brutal, but...
I was, but the last, 3 days I was sick and I didn't play at all. So I was, 20th on the ladder, so I wasn't really at the cusp yet, because the points really start to spread out, where it's, to just get to, the top 8 would have been, another 100 points, which is not easily earned at that level. So I was in position to be competitive with it, and then I couldn't play anymore, so that kind of sucked. But I don't know if I would have made it or not if I had played.
What'd you think of the whole qualification? This being just top 8 and just the ladder, just the whole process of Shoutcraft America.
I think it works. I think all the objections people have of, if you talk about making a bigger, more serious, important event ladder based, then everybody's like, you're crazy, that can't work for a million reasons. But then you have Shoutcraft America, which is not a tiny event. It's a lot of money to be won, so it's enough to kind of take it seriously without making it a premier tournament, so to speak. And yet it just promoted healthy competition. It basically achieved all its goals as far as I could tell. I think it could be done a little more smoothly, but the basic idea of having GM ladder as a qualifier works, both for the tournament to get good players into it, and to give people practice and make the ladder a better environment.
Steven, what'd you think? What'd you think of the whole?
Pretty much the same thing that NoNY said. I mean, it set out to do its goals. A lot of people were entertained, it achieved the goals it set out to accomplish. A lot of people commented that they were entertained watching all the players grind the ladder, for the last day, where everybody was trying to get in.
Yeah.
And it increases the competition on the ladder. It has a lot more people playing the ladder competitively. So it was good.
Cool. Hey, lower your camera a little, Steven.
You know what, man?
You're falling
Call me
off.
shit. All right, hold on one sec. I'm fixing it. Okay.
Frodan, now you're in Germany now. I mean, I know you still have some NA left.
I actually
there,
watched almost all of Shoutcraft America.
Oh wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed it. My favorite moments is when Hitman beats Scarlet, and you just hear the rage build up inside Greg's voice.
Oh god, the dancing
tension.
stalkers. Oh my god.
You know what though?
He didn't
He's a
blink
way.
once.
I have to give so much credit to Idra though, because he's a way more reasonable caster or commentator than he is a player.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
He played for years and we could not get him to see reason as far as changing his own play.
Yeah.
And yet when he casts games, he seems, at least he puts on a front that he's very open to treating each strategy with respect, and treating the Protoss all-ins with respect and just taking them seriously and just being this is what the game is and this is what the Zerg has to do and this is what the Protoss has to do. It seems like he was very respectful of StarCraft in his commentary and good analysis.
I think there are two different Idras, because he does that, but then when you watch his stream, he's exactly the same as you always have known him. It's really weird. It's really weird to see him cast in a really objective, relatively, for Idra standards, a really objective manner. But then you go back and you watch his stream, and it's the exact same Idra. It's kind of funny.
I mean, how much of it? Which part of Greg do you think is closer to the real Greg? Is his stream persona more of an act? You think
real Greg? Well, I don't know if we're gonna get philosophical. I don't know.
No, because I mean, I've always, Greg outside of streaming and watching him play the game has always been really chill, and I don't know, he's always seemed very the complete opposite of this whole BM raging Idra that people know. So, hearing him be a good caster and being objective, that doesn't actually surprise me that much.
Well, have you ever seen him play ZVP?
Well, yeah, of course I've seen him play ZVP.
I mean,
well, I think he's a super rational person, except he's got this one area, which is playing StarCraft, where he's super irrational in certain respects. So, when I think of it that way, I'm like, this is a rational guy. And the exception is him, like, playing Zerg and just being like, oh, I have to go Roach Hydra every game or whatever. And, like, that was the great exception to his rationality. And so now that he's back in other areas, I guess it's safe to assume he is going to be rational and objective and level-headed. But yeah, he's built up these habits and feelings associated with playing StarCraft so much that, like Destiny said, you watch his stream again, and it's going to be the same old shit.
it's so weird because like when you watch him play ZVP on stream, he's like literally stuck in like 2011, like early 2011, and he plays every single ZVP, and then he'll never ever do anything new or different. But then, like, when he goes to cast, he's, like, up with the time. It's just really weird. I don't know. It's really strange watching the two. I would, if you haven't watched his stream and watched him cast, like, going back and forth between the two is really entertaining.
Oh, man. So, Steven.
It's funny because, I want to say something real quick, because every player always kind of imagines, oh, if I can know the metagame, like, 2 years ahead and apply it to what it is now, I'd be, like, such a good player. But Greg seems to be the exact opposite, right? He plays backwards in time still today.
Well,
he's still doing the same.
Well, I mean, if metagame's cyclical, right? Eventually he'll be right again with the basically Roach Hydra type of approach. It was good for, I guess, a brief time when Hearthstone first came out, right? When it first came out.
Best. It was the best for ZVP, but it was never good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was the best you could do.
It's like there's like some kind of. Yeah, it was like a traumatizing experience for Greg, because like that was back when ZVP was like unwinnable for Zerg, right? Like it was always Colossus would just steamroll Zerg, everything they had. You would always be stuck on Roach Hydra Corruptor, and I think that like he was used to getting abused in that position so many times that it like hurts him to like move out of it. Like you kind of become like Stockholm syndrome to like the Roach Hydra Corruptor, where like even though they're abusive to you and they never work, you don't want to leave them because you've like grown attached to them, and then I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting. But what thoughts went through your head, Steven, whenever you saw Hitman beating Scarlet? Did you actually see that live?
I couldn't watch those games. I already hate Protoss enough. I don't need to watch. Although I should have, because whatever he did was probably what all the kids on the fucking ladder are gonna do now. So. Yep.
That was definitely surprising. But the results of the tournament had, obviously Huck winning, in the end, 4-0. And let me bring up Wikipedia for you guys to check it out. Masa had a pretty good run. Did you guys watch any of the Masa games?
Yeah, he made a pretty sick comeback, too.
Yeah.
It was funny because he was down 0-2 originally to Kane. Mm-hmm. And then TB and Idra were like saying like, oh yeah, like Kane just looks really good. Masa, he's still getting used to the big stage. And then he won 3 in a row, playing really well. But then Kane started making some pretty sloppy mistakes. Actually, in the first games or two, I feel like he wasn't trying very hard either. Like, I agree with what Idra was saying. He was just attacking, and then it was just working overwhelmingly. And I was just really surprised to see, like, Masa crumble that easily and then be able to collect himself to go 3-2 against the reigning champion.
Yeah, definitely. With Huck winning, in the end 4-0, like, you guys surprised that Huck would, I guess, after getting past Hitman 3-1, that he was going to take the tournament at that point? It seemed like Huck was, I don't know, in the finals, it just seemed like Huck was on another level than Masa was.
Well, I think after getting past Scarlet was really the thing.
That's
like once Scarlet was eliminated, then Huck's eyes lit up when he's like, this one's mine. I don't think he was really afraid of anyone. His PvP has always been great. And like, even though Hitman is scary again for his Terrans and Zergs, that's the norm for PvP. Like everybody has to play PvP the way Hitman plays PvZ and PvT. Like you just have to do all ins, you have to do coin flips, you have to play risky. I mean, I guess you can kind of lean one way or the other and you be like, okay, I'm going to be the guy that like observes and reacts or something, but you never do that all the time. Everybody's got a little taste of it. So I think when they were playing PvP, even though Huck was like playing a little bit on the safe side, especially for his preferences. It was really just PvP as normal as far as I could tell, and so I think he was pretty confident.
Okay, yeah, really cool. And again, like congratulations to Hux for winning that tournament. But there were a lot of other things that were kind of surrounded this tournament. A lot of external or just issues that kind of arose in the first round. That's probably worth mentioning. And if you can see like on the bracket that 2 of the matches didn't, the winner didn't get to 3, right?
Why not?
So basically what happened was the Muslim and Major forfeited in the middle of the series. Both of them for different reasons. The Muslim seemed to have some health issues, or he was sick midway through the series, or maybe he was sick going into the series and then just couldn't continue. And the Major was having some lag issues, so that's the reason he forfeited. A lot of uproar because of all this, in the community, people being disappointed in the players and that sort of thing. Want to see what your thoughts are on this issue. Frodan, you can start off.
Well, I didn't really get to investigate much about the Major thing. Every time I talk to Major, he always just asks for my Pokemon friend code. So I'm not gonna try to defend him or attack him in that regard. So maybe he did have latency, and everyone knows that South America, that region in general, sometimes struggles with latency issues. So that probably sounds legit. The whole Muslim thing seems pretty suspicious, but I haven't been able to talk to Ben either. But at the same time, I don't feel I feel like the Muslim should at the same time say something about it, but he's been really silent about it. And I think his silence is
He
pretty
made he made a post.
Or did he make something?
He made a post, but he never talked about the alcohol thing. He just said he was sick and throwing up. So that was kind of weird, because a lot of people were saying that maybe he had a little bit too much to drink the night before. Although, to be fair, hangovers... I mean, I guess I don't get hangovers, but would you really be sick the night after?
No.
How much would you have to drink to be sick for the entire next of the rest day? Unless he woke up... Unless he was out drinking until 7 a.m., and then woke up when he had to play, maybe? I don't know.
Which I don't think so, because I've been to that place in Alameda before, and they don't open that place.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of talk, and there's a Reddit thread all about this. Let me find the Reddit thread. But there's a lot of talk as whether he got sick from drinking, or if it was just a bug that was running around and that he kind of caught and was puking in between games or whatever. I kind of find it interesting that if it was if it was just a bug that he didn't just outright say it had nothing to do with the night before, right? Because I think any of those insinuations just draw a bunch more criticism, that he was out the night before and that sort of thing. So it's kind of weird that he didn't address that part of it. But it's like, Tyler, if you were playing a tournament, you were sick and you were puking. I mean, would the consideration for you to just forfeit the games cross your mind?
I think if you literally have just vomited between games or something, I think you can't just continue playing, especially unless you feel like it's going to be a really easy win. But if you're playing against Huck, for example, and look, I can't give a proper effort. I can't give a good effort. If you're playing, in some qualifier against a fucking platinum player that just signed up to the tournament for fun, then maybe you just hunch over on your computer and roll your face on the keyboard and win. But yeah, in a serious competition, no, you can't play StarCraft while you're throwing up. You have to pause the game to throw up or something. Or even if you just feel like you're going to throw up, I don't think you can play with that. But I don't know. I think if he actually felt that bad, I don't think it could be just from the alcohol. I think he would have had to have caught some bug to feel that bad. Because there's no chance that he actually drank that much the night before for it to just be alcohol to make him feel that bad. I absolutely don't think he would do that, and he wouldn't lie about it either. He's the type of guy, he's shown in his history, he would just fess up to that and just be like, look, guys, I'm really sorry, but I did something really immature and it ruined it for everyone. He's the type of guy that would confess to that. So I don't think that was it. But you could
especially
raise the question.
Since when he was drinking, he was with Alex Garfield, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
right?
with
So
Alex Garfield. I think you could raise the question: should players like go out drinking the night before at all? But that's I don't know. I think that's what gives some people a bit of a bad feeling is like they kind of like this pristine image of pro gamers like doing everything that they can in their spare time to put them in the best position to perform when it comes like performance time, and hardly any player does that. So when you get like an example of, oh, this guy, went out, even if he didn't get really drunk, he at least went out drinking the night before, that he has like a pretty important tournament. Shouldn't players not be doing that? But that's kind of a separate issue.
So how much of this kind of criticism and just people making a big deal of it has to do with the fact that it's a North American tournament, and it happens to be Shoutcraft America, and the way you qualify for it is based on how you ranked in the ladder. So there were obviously other people who got knocked out by these guys in the last day that could have been playing in their place.
I mean, that definitely sucks. But one thing you have to consider real fast too is, and this is kind of unfortunate, and I'm not saying that it's his fault or anything, but Ben has a lot of fans that really want to see him go to a tournament and win. And I don't know if there's any other player, and again, I'm not blaming him, but I don't know if there's any other player with like as extensive of a list of problems as he's had for like never being able to play in a tournament,
Yeah.
Like it's almost like his inability to play in tournaments is almost comparable to how many teams like majors hopped around on. Like he's either like breaking his arm like every other week, or he's had like visa problems, or like he can't like I don't know, like there's always an issue that comes up. So to see him qualify for that tournament, and then that what you said, like a tournament with limited spots and stuff, and then we finally get to see the ladder hero Muslim go and play, and like everybody's excited for that. Then to have an issue come up where it's like I'm sick. And then it's like, well, he was drinking the night before. And again, not saying it's because he was drunk or anything, or because it's a hangover, but like all of those things I think factor into it. Like if it was any other player, I don't know, it would have been as big of a deal. But to see it happen to Muslim again, I think really hurts people,
Well, and there's the whole EG was a frat house, and their old house was a frat house, and now you got a player saying, look, I'm not saying these things to like give them truth, but I'm just saying what I think these things are hanging in the back of people's minds when they're making these judgments. Because you also have North America as a region, and Shoutcraft America being a tournament for this region specifically. North America as a region, worst results and a terrible reputation for players not trying their hardest to win, myself included, a whole lot of other people, just not putting in the proper effort that you see from Koreans especially, but also from Europeans. And so you put these things together, and then you just see these kind of sordid affairs, like making Shoutcraft America a little bit worse. And then everything just adds up to being bad. And I think even with us having a worse reputation, we're now held to a higher standard, because if even the littlest thing makes us look bad, like unprofessional, then everybody's going to pick up on it. And it's just another like little bit of snow in the fucking avalanche coming down the mountain saying your region is shit, you're all shit, and you don't belong here. So I think that's true. Like it's very true. Going into it.
Dan,
I do want to say that that I talked to the Muslim recently, and he hasn't actually streamed that much. I mean, he started streaming again a few weeks ago and started trying to get more consistent with that, but he took a little break because he told me he wasn't very motivated. I think we talked at BlizzCon because he did a booth for EG with Suppy there, and he was telling me like, oh yeah, I just don't really have much motivation at the moment, like WCS format hasn't been announced yet, like I don't even know necessarily if they're going to force me to go back to Europe if I have to compete unless I have some kind of residency thing. So he was pretty in limbo for a while, but then he told me like the week after that he was like super motivated and he was going to start really practicing hard because then he heard the format, so he wanted to just go all out. And he kind of proved it. He was starting to stream more. He was really starting to take his commentary on his while playing very seriously. And I find it kind of out of character because Ben is kind of like that guy. Sometimes he just doesn't have it, doesn't want to play, doesn't really want to do anything except maybe go party and hook up with dragons. But when he's on his game, like in terms of StarCraft...
I mean, wait, what? Hook up with dragons? What the fuck does that mean? Break it down, please.
Oh, you don't know. Well, Steven, in any kind of game, when it comes to opposite sex, there's princesses and dragons. Ben Ben has some fun
Okay,
stories.
got it. I've never heard the term dragons before. Thank you.
Well, the idea is we say tonight we're going to go dragon slay. It's just like a common.
Oh.
It's a little fun.
And man,
It's not.
and the player.
That's sexism in
No,
esports. Damn. I didn't even know we were going to be on this topic today.
Actually, what's even funnier is that I've seen the Muslim drink an insane amount and black out not on tournament days, but like things that just hang out. And then the next day he's completely fine as well. So I think that even kind of confirms that I don't really think even just a simple night of karaoke and drinking would have stopped him from competing in Shoutcraft America, because the Muslim was really motivated to play, and I can vouch for it.
Sure.
You reminded me of something too when you're talking about his psychological state and motivation right now in providing incentives for the talented North American players to actually meet their potential. It's a really tricky subject right now, and a lot of different approaches have been taken to it. I can say, for myself, when I had the most respect ever in my whole career was going to Korea, because that's like, and State is getting the same shit now. If you like go to Korea, then all of a sudden you're fucking like God as far as your motivation is concerned, because you're like sacrificing everything to do the hardest training. Well, guess what? Like, I was there for 2 months. I probably got fucking wasted like 4 times. So like, you can't just. But I was also practicing 12 hours a day. So like, it was just like I would get a half day off, and they're like, "We're going drinking," and Korea has a very strong drinking culture, so that's just the way it was. So like, but if you took a snapshot of me and said, "Oh look, he got really drunk," and then let's look at his practice the next day and it was shit, well then that's gonna look fucking terrible. Like, I'm very unprofessional, not trying very hard at all or whatever. My point is just saying that you see like a tweeted picture of some pro gamers having some fun at a karaoke bar or whatever. You can't just be like, they're not taking shit seriously. Like, you have to mix in some like relaxation time and some fun time, and it's all like a very complicated process to like be professional and give it your best effort, but also not to like burn yourself out. So I don't think unprofessional for a second when I see that they're drinking. But obviously, if you drink so much it affects the tournament, then that's when it crosses the line.
Yeah, it's definitely stressful, and those days leading up to the tournament were kind of stressful too. And I mean, we saw like QXC smashing keyboards again, and stuff like that. And it sounds like bad and crazy, but it just means that they care so much about it, right? And it's even more stressful.
It's that passion, right?
Muslim cared so much he went out drinking.
Okay, all right, here we go. Yeah. But let's talk about just, I guess, how the tournament possibly should have handled the situation. Should they have just had alternates? Just like maybe 4 alternates. If something happened to any of the 8 participants, those guys would have just popped in. The 9 through 12 on the ladder, and would it have alleviated some of this, this crazy talk? I mean, just a lot of the drama that's happened because of those 2 guys.
Well,
what do you think, Steven?
Did Major play 1 game? He played 1 game before he forfeited.
He played like 3 games. I think it's 2-1.
Did he play like? Okay, so then in those cases, you can't really sub anyone in. Like, how would you feel if you played somebody round 1 and you were 3-1 against them, and then they forfeit, and then you had to sub someone else in? Like,
well, okay, so maybe it's the tournament makes all the players aware that, hey, if there's anything that's compromising your ability to play, then let us know, right? So we can sub in. Do you think it would have mattered? I mean, do you think Ben would have taken a step back there, or do you think he still would have played? Being as sick as he was?
But players never have incentive to not just try to play. Like, if they both started the series thinking that they could play the whole series, which I'm sure that's what they did, then why would they ever say no? Especially, did they even get like prize money just for like making
that's
it
a good question.
at all?
I don't know.
I think 5th through 8th did get prize money.
Yeah, they did get $100. That's true.
So there you go. It's like, do you want to turn down $100 free dollars, or I don't know.
Okay,
it's hard to say.
Okay, so I guess given y'all's responses, you don't think there should be a penalty incurred for these guys, like going into like the next Shoutcraft America? A lot of people were talking that in the comments in the Reddit thread. Steven, what do you think? Should there be a penalty for these guys?
It's a really, really, really tough thing to say. I don't know. Like, you want to say no, it's kind of like I swear to God, I don't turn everything into a rape analogy, but you know how some people talk about like for girls, like people are like you should have penalties against women for false rape accusations. Like in a perfect world, that would be good because it would protect people from false rape accusations. But in an imperfect world, like the one we live in, it could result in people not making those accusations at all because then you run the risk of getting fucked if you lose the case in court. So it's like the same thing here. Like, do you really want to penalize somebody for like if like say the Muslim legitimately like had like SARS or like he got like fucking AIDS or some shit from drinking with Alex Garfield, not that he would have AIDS, like if anything terrible like that would happen and then he had to pull out of the event and it hurt him and it hurt his career and it hurt his image and everything, do we really need to penalize him on top of that? Like I don't know, like that's a really tough question to ask, you know? I think forfeiture of prize money is good enough in my opinion.
All right, Dan, come on. What do you think? Should they be penalized?
Well, maybe not in Steven's perfect world. I think there should be some kind of penalty, maybe just not allowing them to go through the next one. But that's also kind of the limitations of online. Like, there's no guarantee this won't happen again to some other person who has latency. Canada has really bad internet connections as well. But yet some of these Canadians managed to make it. So there has to be kind of some punishment, in my opinion. But same time, like maybe just take away prize money. I don't know if they won prize money top 8. Oh, they did. They won $100.
$100.
Maybe
Yeah.
take away the $100, like at the very least. But at the same time, you're trying to promote these players as storylines, and not having the Muslim and Major, two of the top North American players for a long time, is kind of a disservice to the scene, in my opinion. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this Shoutcraft had much bigger names than the last one, right? The last one where Kane won. So that's why I was really, really looking forward to just having it's like half the people too. I think there were 16 in the last one, right? Versus the 8 in this one, I believe. I think there were 16 in the last.
Yeah,
Shoutcraft.
I think it was 16.
Yeah, but the names, even just these 8 names, I think were bigger. So, yeah. So overall, I think overall, what do you think? Do you think this was a success? I mean, it did have like 20 to 25,000 concurrent viewers the whole time. But
Is
do
that
you think?
what was the total prize pool for the event?
It was
5,000.
5,000. Yeah, 5,000. It was sponsored by Ting, your sponsor, Steven.
Depends on how you define success. I don't know if that was really worth it for Total Biscuit. I'm sure he would have wanted at least like 40 or 50,000. You know. It sucks that we got plagued with all these problems because these kinds of events hurt us a lot. Like everybody's always, like me included. Like this makes like especially me, people like me look really bad because I'm always talking about how like top tier foreigner players playing against each other can be just as entertaining as top tier Koreans playing against each other.
Yeah.
Fucking that NA players and you know the NA region needs its own tournaments, that it'll help the ladder and all these really good things. So to have a tournament come out that addresses all of those issues, that drafts people from the NA ladder that are NA players that are ready to play in an NA tournament, and then it gets plagued with all these kind of problems, like the 2 people dropping out really early. I don't know. I think that really hurts. That hurts a lot of people. In my opinion, I think it hurts the entire NA scene quite a bit. I don't like to use the term killing esports, but this is probably one of the most negative things that happened in NA in a while. I think that in my opinion.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
I think the invasion of the Koreans was probably the most devastating thing that could have happened to the NA scene this year, at least.
Well, yeah.
But
but
I mean, the last 3 years,
I mean,
man. What are you
I just mean
talking
like within our control. Like imagine how cool would this tournament have been if you had 8 strong NA players and you got a lot of good games and you had hyped casters and it was like 40, 50, 60,000 viewers. I think that would have been really positive. And I think it would have shown a really positive light on all the people that are like, look, like we can do NA only things. We can have an NA scene that works. We can, you know. Whereas now in the future, anytime there's a discussion about region locking or whatever, or anytime like Destiny's on the forum, like we need region locking and we can play entertaining games and it'll be fine. People will point to events like this. We're like, well, look at Shoutcraft America. Like fucking, you know, a quarter of your players, 25% of your players fucking forfeited out of the first round, and the games just weren't that entertaining. Like, why do you think region locking could work? Like, obviously we need Koreans here, you know, like that kind of stuff really hurts the arguments for an exclusive NA tournament scene, you know.
Tyler, what do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say what effect it'll ultimately have. I think Destiny's right that people will point to that and make that argument. But I think if you're trying to judge, like, what does it take to get there, like to get to like Destiny's ideal NA scene, it would take a lot more than just a couple of I mean, this is the only the second Shoutcraft America, and I think it would take a lot of these events. I think we'd have to stick with it for a while to give it a real shot. And those of us who at least see the potential there. Like we know that the Muslim and Major, both of them, can show like really, really impressive, fun to watch
Yeah.
games. Like both of them, and we basically got robbed of all that entertainment value. And it's not even really their fault. It's not like they're flaky guys all the time. Like they've played plenty of tournaments all the way through and really well. It's like, so I think this was just like, of all, if you ran this event like 100 times over, you know, like traveling back in time and resetting it and doing it again, this is probably one of the worst ways it could have gone. And I think if you ran a bunch more, then they would on average be a lot better than the way this one ran, without changing how good the scene actually is and what potential the scene actually has. So I feel like this was just like a kind of a bad luck tournament. And if we can get people to stick with the NA scene and do more things like this, then hopefully we won't have such shit luck and they'll run a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that, you know, we might be talking a lot of things that happened during the tournament, but let's be sure to point out that having a Shoutcraft America is just great. I mean, if we don't have this event, we don't even have the chance of and, you know, NA scene having just the ability to grow and that sort of thing. So we need to have Shoutcraft America. And yeah, we had a bunch of bad luck. Seems to be bad luck even in the first one too, just with some of the technical issues. But you know, hopefully they'll continue to do these tournaments, and hopefully, you know, other people will continue doing it, because we need more than just Shoutcraft. And it's going to take, like you said, Tyler, it's going to take doing these consistently. It sounds like that the Shoutcrafts are going to be based more on sponsors, you know, than it is just, I guess, money coming out of TB and Jenna's pockets, like the first one was. So hopefully other sponsors will kind of see the opportunity. I mean, having Idra cast with TB, and then having all those players that you were talking about potentially having entertaining games, we have plenty of people to generate, you know, a tournament or event that can get a lot of views. You think we can actually get 50, Steven? I don't even know if we can get 50,000 for NA.
I mean, at least
crazy.
pushing like 35, 40,000. You don't think? Cats can play some really fucking entertaining games that people like to watch. Everybody loves people like Scarlet, or everybody loves Scarlet. Total Biscuit and Andrew both have their own massive following. Like I feel like the cogs are in place for it. No,
I almost feel like it needs to be a little bit different, like the production of it, not just a straight out tournament like any other tournament. Like interview them some, you know what I mean? Like these are guys that we all like are huge fans of. Particularly the NA crowd, right? The NA scene. I mean, we love these guys, and we love a lot of their personalities too. So I feel like, you know, adding that sort of angle to it might add to the
like
entertainment
NASL.
value.
NASL did video interviews directly after matches.
Video. Wait,
They
video
did that.
interviews? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
or at
Okay.
least audio interviews.
Yeah. I mean,
They
yeah,
did
those would
interviews
be great.
directly after you played matches, though. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just things like that, right? I mean, things that kind of utilize the more of the value that these players bring than just straight up skill, because a lot of people are still going to call, you know, why should we watch these matches over the top Koreans? You know, why these matches are boring? Like that's kind of some of the comments in the Reddit thread too. Like, and we can kind of tell that they're not as high level and that sort of thing. Well, you know, they're right. You know, some of these aren't high level, but there is other interesting value that we could be leveraging, I think, in some of these productions. But okay, guys, I think that's going to be it for Shoutcraft America. Why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. We'll continue on with some Riot talk and then some Clauf ESGN talk. All right, be right back.